So the past 3 weeks or so they haven't really been that good for Trump. He went from being a clear favorite for the election to now being in a statistical tie, or possibly even losing the race, if only by a few points. Kamala Harris, who took Joe Biden's place, easily has surged with a swath of enthusiasm, and that's made the race much harder for Trump, and it really doesn't look like he's on track to regain the position he was in just a few short weeks ago. And the craziest thing about all of this is I genuinely think that Trump could have kept the lead and could have been leading Harris right now, even despite the shift in momentum. Democrats actually gave Trump a sort of a lifeline if he'd been as cool and level headed as possible. All he needed to do was keep his eye on the prize and not get distracted. You see, the moment Biden ended his bid for re-election and had Kamala take his place, Trump could have kept the narrative in his favor. He was literally coming right out of the RNC, and he could have made the case that Republicans were united and put together, whereas now Democrats no longer even had a clear nominee and couldn't keep the candidate they'd voted for and was literally the president. And, I think the fundraising numbers would have kept for Harris, but I think if Trump had made this clear and kept with this narrative and hammered it over and over, he could have maintained the spotlight on him in a positive direction, at least to the median voter. He could have run ads that said more than just Kamala knew about Biden's condition, because those are the ads they initially came out with. He could have made ads that made the case that she also carried Biden's record that many view unpopular because she's his VP, and on the same token, attacked her record at the same time. And of course, making that distinction over and over again, you know, and really hammer the message home. And then days later, he could have pointed out something that I recently pointed out, which was she's really running on nothing, and he could have used his 2016 style populist message to portray her as another empty suit politician who just wants the job. Run a few ads on that too. And on top of that, he could have held much more rallies than he has after the RNC. In my opinion, I think after your convention, that's pretty much you're on the clock now every day as a candidate for president. I mean that's kind of the expectation. You can't really rest. You are in a race. And stay focused on winning the election with that message and what you want to do. Don't let anything drag you down in the process. Act like you're the one ahead because coming out of the convention, you usually are. Instead, he did not this. Immediately following the changeup on July 21st, Trump threw a tantrum on Truth Social. And then he threw some more tantrums and some more. And then he got invited to the National Association of Black Journalists conference, and he laid out his bold new attack on Kamala Harris, which is that she's not actually black, she's Indian. Good one, good job, Donald. You got her there. You really got her. I'm sure the average voter really cares about the race of the candidate and is going to make their final decision solely off that. And then he kept with this line of attack, like time and time again. And then he saw her rally crowd sizes, and he decided to dedicate quite a lot of time to making sure that that we all know he's got the bigger crowd sizes. And he even did a press conference where he spent quite a minute addressing this. And then on top of all of this, Mr. I have the biggest crowds at rallies decided while he's saying this, hey, let me not even try to keep having a bunch of rallies now that I'm the nominee. His schedule has been super light. And that's bad for him considering the consistent rallies is kind of what's gotten him his enthusiastic support the past two cycles. In the last week, Harris held 6 rallies while Trump held one. And giving her the spotlight with a week or so to go before the DNC, where she will be the only one with any of the airwaves, is a pretty bad idea. And Trump apparently plans to keep this late schedule until after the convention, Which, honestly, based on how Trump has just really fumbled this coming right out of all of this noise, I actually think maybe at this point it might be better for him to have a light schedule considering he's not having a good go of it against his new election buddy. But it's just beyond incredible how he was just not able to manage the change in circumstances at all. You know, it's really surprising to me. I did not think it was going to be this hard for him to grapple with the new reality. Maybe he can mount a comeback. It is August, and he does have time to course correct. And we are talking about Donald Trump, who in 2016, at this same time, was also down in the polls. In fact, that's the thing that up until this election, that was a signature, making comebacks. So he could do it again, but he also has time to make things even worse for himself, and that's just incredibly bizarre considering the position we were in just 1 month ago. Trump could have kept himself the apex predator of this environment if he'd not let his anger get in his own way. By being rattled by Kamala Harris being his new opponent, he pretty much lost his summer momentum and will now likely have to face a reality where, for the third election in a row, he's the one who's the underdog.